All right. Well, I just want to take a second before we get started. My name is Zach O'Farrell. I'm the Director of Education Programs at the Afro Latin Jazz Alliance. I want to thank you guys for coming in and joining us for our masterclass series. Today, we're hearing from the great Carlos Maldonado, one of the percussionists from the Afro Latin Jazz Orchestra. He's going to be breaking down what he does, and if you've been watching the band's virtual Birdland series, you're watching Carly play the hell out of a different instrument on every track. So Carly's going to talk to us just about, all the stuff he does, the different Afro Latin musical languages. He's got to be fluent in the instruments he plays, developing technique across a wide variety of instruments. So yeah, thank you, Carly, man.
My pleasure. So, hello everybody. I'm just gonna play a little bit just to warm up and have some fun. And then we're gonna go around the instruments and talk a little bit.
That's why I have synthetic drum.
Ooh, sorry. I just wanted to say, if you could mute your microphones when if you're not asking a question or something, okay? That would help us a lot. Thank you.
Excellent, man.
Thank you, thank you.
I'll take everything I said back about Puerto Rico.
Sharing a little bit of what I do with the Afro Latin Jazz Orchestra. And as you see, I play many different instruments from different countries. But I started playing a jazz tune, a bebop tune, which is called Billy's Bounce. Billy's Bounce by Charlie Parker, which is a 12-bar blues form, right? The reason why I did that is because what we do in the orchestra is mainly mixing jazz music with Latin music. So in order to me to perform with the orchestra, I need to have a little background of jazz music. So I play this piece by Charlie Parker, which is a 12-bar blues, and if you listen to it, it have many different rhythmic patterns that fits perfect with the clave and with many other Latin rhythms. I, for example, play a little bit of Afro-Cuban music at the beginning with the tumbadoras. Then I play the cajon, which is an instrument from Peru, and I play different rhythms from Peru. Then I went and played the barril from Puerto Rico, and then we went back to Cuba with the bongos. So what I did is playing around those two different words of jazz and Latin music. And of course, we have many similarities in both language. So it's very important for the percussionist to also know what is happening in the jazz percussion world. So because usually we have bringing the folkloric music from the Latin American countries to the jazz setting. That's what we usually do at the orchestra. Everybody speak English here, or should I do in both Spanish or? Huh?
Good either way.
Oh, okay. Man, my English is, but I can survive.
Dale, dale, le estás dando.
Okay. Okay.
Está bueno, está bueno.
Good. So I have been playing with the Arturo Farrell Afro Latin Jazz Orchestra for a few years now, and we started playing, of course, the most popular Latin American rhythms are the rhythm from Cuba. So we have the mambo, the cha-cha-cha, the guaguancó, bolero, all those well-known rhythms that we usually have to deal with them as a percussionist, right? If someone hires you to do a gig playing percussion, usually you're gonna play Cuban rhythms, mostly, right? On these instruments. So what happened in the Afro Latin Jazz Orchestra?
¿Estás oyendo?
We have to perform different rhythms for different parts of the world. So I have to start learning a little bit more of rhythm from different countries. So of course I'm from Puerto Rico, so I grew up playing a lot of the Cuban rhythms and also the Puerto Rican rhythms. So when I started playing, I started playing mostly salsa music, which is composed of tumbadora, timbales, bongo, the typical Cuban rhythm section. So after a while, I started listening to folkloric music and rumba and the batadrons also. And also learning a little bit of the folkloric percussion from the styles of bomba and plena. So when I moved to New York, I started exploring more with the Peruvian music, which have also the figuration of bongo, tumbadora, and cajon. So that's mainly the percussion section on the Peruvian music. So what will happen on the orchestra is that usually we have this series of concerts that they have a guest that will come from different parts of Latin America. So usually they give us the music way ahead of time and we have time to learn and try to play. Or sometimes they will bring their own percussionist, will be teaching me or other percussionists in the orchestra the patterns that go with the music. So, but usually that put me in a challenge to learn different styles. So, because when I come from the percussionist, it's just, you gotta be maybe just a conga player or just a bongocero or just a timbalero, which is all good because this instrument just by himself, you require a lifetime to play it properly, you know, just to get the proper sound and you know, and have the ability to play at the professional level. Just take a whole life, you know. Same for the bongo. But nowadays, because times are changing, music is changing, we will find out that maybe you gotta play a tune that has different rhythms from different parts of Latin America. So we gotta be prepared to play and at least know the basics of these rhythms. So in the Afro Latin Jazz Orchestra, we have a repertoire that covers around 50 tunes or 40 tunes, which we go from music from Peru, music from Colombia, music from Uruguay, music from Argentina, from Puerto Rico, from Cuba, for Dominican Republic, from Jamaica, everything. So we try our best as a percussionist to do a research, do investigation, and try to, you know, to learn the best we can and try to explore the rhythms. What will happen is that when you get deep into it, you're gonna find that they're very similar. They have a lot of similarities in the rhythms, and then you start making the connections of the rhythms. So when I started playing the first piece that I performed, I connect all those possibilities. For example, I started with a guaguancó, and then I moved to a festejo rhythm from Peru, and then to a rhythm called seis corrido from Puerto Rico in the barril, seis corrido. Those rhythms have a lot in common, that are rhythms that are in the meter of 4/4 and are very syncopated. So you can switch easily from those rhythms. But what happens is that all the rhythms have a different language that you had to approach. And that language came from listening to music and trying to assimilate the different parts of it. So, for example, if I'm gonna play the festejo, right, on the cajon. This is the time, right? 1, 2, 3. So if I want to improvise a little bit, so I gotta get some of the language of this culture into my playing. Why? Because if I start doing some of the language of the barril in the cajon, it won't sound in the same root. It won't sound like the correct way to play. And the same, if I start doing a language of the bongo on the cajon, and vice versa. So what I did a lot is the best way to learn is going to a live performance, right? And for example, here in New York City, you can go to many places that they play these folkloric styles. And there are some people from Peru living here that are the experts of this. By any means, I am not an expert of the cajon instrument. I just learned the basics and learn what to play. But in order to be an expert in this instrument, you gotta spend your whole life listening to not just rhythms, you know, just learning the language, learning the phrasing, and learning the dance, because all of the improvisations that we do, most of them come from the dance. The same for here, for the Puerto Rican music, and the same for the Cuban music. Okay, so if I'm gonna play the festejo again. So those little licks like this, you don't find that in Cuban music, for example, or Puerto Rican. That's very Peruvian. That's very. I mean, they are like cousins, you know. They can talk and understand each other, but it's very part of the culture that you gotta learn some of those little things, you know, that makes the rhythm more lively and more typical, right?
Hey, Carly,
Uh-huh.
perhaps maybe you could, as you're going, you can suggest some musicians to listen to from all these different styles, and then maybe afterwards I can get everyone who's on here's email address, and we can kind of share a list of things they could be listening to.
Oh yeah, definitely. You mean the folkloric stuff?
Yeah, whatever. If you were just talking about Peruvian music, you can, you know, if you can think of any great compañeros or artists.
Yeah. I
from
can do that. I can put a list from all the different artists. So what will happen is that I got
And the Charlie Parker song, the Charlie Parker tune.
Oh, and the Charlie Parker tune.
Huh?
And the Charlie Parker tune you were playing before.
Oh yeah, that's Billy's Bounce. Okay, yeah.
Cool, but I'll get that from you.
Okay, beautiful. So when I was living in Puerto Rico, I got the opportunity to perform with a salsa artist that travel like a lot of these Latin American countries. So usually when we have free time, I would just go to concerts, or if I know someone there, I would call a percussionist and say, hey, listen, I want to take lessons and I want to learn. And usually percussionists, we are very friendly. We are like a family. So I connect with everybody. For example, if I went to Colombia, meet people over there and try to go to concert. For example, last year we went to Dominican Republic and I got the opportunity to go and listen to the merengue típico and see all that, you know, and learn from that. So going back to the Peruvian stuff, if I play this rhythm that is the most popular, the cajon have many different rhythms and many different styles, and they go with each song have a different rhythm and a specific tempo. So, but I'm just talking about the festejo because it's the most popular rhythm, but they have rhythms like Alcatraz, Inga, for sure the Vals Peruano. They are related, but in order to master those rhythms, you gotta play with those guys. There's no other way. But I'm talking about the language when you play in between the rhythm, because I mean, for me to play a rhythm, it can be boring, you know, but you gotta put some life to the rhythm. and make it organic. Because if not, if you play the rhythm like a machine box or like a loop, that's not music. You know, that's not music. You gotta play and phrase and make something out of it. Okay. So for example, if I'm playing the festejo, so those kinds of stuff are, you know, come from listening to a lot of music. And also I had the opportunity to take lessons with some people that play cajon in Lima, Peru, and also here in New York. So that's for the cajon. And also when we play all these different instruments, I have to say that besides the rhythm, besides the language that I'm talking about is rhythm, to have the technique and have a good sound. So sometimes people will teach you in an academic way, put the hand here or do this or do that. But I believe that everybody have different shapes of the hands, right? So maybe what is good for me, maybe is not good for you. So what I usually tell students is that they gotta find a spot that fits them. But first, I believe that you gotta have the sound in your head. I have seen many people, for example, playing the bongos, for example, which look like a very easy instrument, but just to get this sound, the martillo, right? Just to get this sound it takes a lot of practice and a lot of performing, right? The open, the slaps to be clean. So I try to put a sound that I like from a percussionist that I admire or I follow. For example, in the bongo, I listen to a lot of master Cuban percussionists from each era, right? Because we can go back to the 40s, to the 50s, 60s, 70s. People like Armando Peraza, Saint Mongo Santa Maria, Papaquila from the Arsenio Rodriguez. And in Puerto Rico, we have a lot of great bongo setups that I learn a lot watching. But first, you gotta put the sound of all the instruments. And how you put the sound in your head is listening a lot. I believe it's more important to listen than to have the flashy technique. Of course, I like that. It's kind of my style of performing, but first you gotta go to the roots and learn the basics and learn I don't want to call the basics. I just want to call it the language and the sound of the instrument, because maybe anyone can take a bongo and just play random stuff, but to get the proper sound, you know. And also, I'm talking a little bit advanced because I believe in everybody here. Most of you play percussion, right? But if not, just raise your hand and ask me any question, okay? But usually in the Afro Latin Jazz Orchestra, we have a drum set player and a conga player and me as a bongocero. So I'm not gonna play the way I play with the salsa band, with the Latin jazz band. Why? Because there is a lot of different melodies and harmonies happening, and it's usually music that is for improvisation. So if I am playing a lot of stuff and I get in the way of the soloist or in the way of the composition, then we are not making music. I am playing to myself. And it took me many years to learn that. But as you get playing and having experience, you're gonna learn where you can say something and where you just got a groove. So the bongo is very easy to get busy and get into the way of people. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect. Maybe sometimes I do, or maybe other times I don't. But I try to keep that in mind. So going back to the bongo in the sound, again, listening to the masters, and I try to get that sound. I have, for example, the opportunity to perform with for me, one of the best bongoceros in the world, Anthony Carrillo. So Anthony, I would watch his hands, where they land, how he approach the slaps and stuff like that. So one other important thing in percussion that I learned from masters like Anthony is that you gotta learn how to lock in your pattern with the drum set and with the conga player. Because sometimes maybe the conga player is doing this tumbao, right? Basic tumbao, no? But you gotta know where your part, if you're playing bongo, where your part is gonna fit with that. Because you cannot play by yourself. And some people do that. But the bongo, for example, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, right? That's a basic martillo. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the conga part, so 1, 2, 3. In that part, you see that they find each other. So 1, 2. So what happens if I don't listen to that? I'm gonna play in a different air, in a different vibe. So we're not gonna be like this. We're gonna be like shaky. I'm gonna give you a sample. If I don't listen to the conga player and I play the pattern the way I don't care, you know? See that this one is like clutching. They're not like this. So I try to and actually sometimes the drum set player, which in this case is Maestro Vincherico, or sometimes Maestro Sacco Farri, they are playing a pattern, you know, and sometimes I try to see where my pattern go with them so we can log in. The same happen with for example, with the cowbell. If I'm playing cowbell in the band, I'm not gonna play that loud. I'm just gonna, I'm just trying to groove. But the same happen, the conga part, if he's playing the tumbao, right? Everyone knows the basic mambo or what we call salsa pattern, right? So I try to find out those two spots that goes together, right? Right? See those two that they find each other? And this other one, when the conga player do the slap, it finds me in this part of the cowbell, right? So I try to put that together with the other percussionists. So let's say we're playing a fast mambo. We always find each other here. So in that way, we can work as a percussion section because we are three of us and we have to listen to each other. So in that way, I always try to match the slap. For the bongo, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. I have two options. I can go with the opens, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and find it here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Or I can go with this. You know that when we play the bongo, we have this ghost note, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So these two, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, goes with the slap. 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1. See? So in that way, I know that I am logged in with the conga. And also goes with the clave. We play the clave. See? That 4-beat is another branch that we can grab to be together, right? Because the conga part go with the clave, right? Same for the clave. We find each other in that pattern with the clave. Another important thing, for example, in jazz music, they call it swing, right? Because if you play the cymbal pattern in swing, it's like tan, 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 but that little pattern doesn't mean nothing. Doesn't mean nothing because it's just pa, 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 pa. So you gotta put some hard swing. You gotta put some life to it, right? So the same happens with the percussion. If I play the cowbell like this, let me turn this down so you don't. Okay. If I play like this, I'm playing like it's nothing happening, you know? So the way to play the cowbell is to give it swing. So you're not gonna swing over the conga player, but you gotta put some life to it. also the cowbell, if you see how I hold it, I'm trying to, I am muffing, I'm doing muff tones with my finger, just to control the tone. So if I play, let's say a mambo jazz pattern or something like this. You see me muffing the cowbell, just not to be that loud, because when we play folk with the Afro Latin Jazz Orchestra, we have a big orchestra and it's mostly jazz music, compositional music. Sometimes we play dance music and then I go full house, you know, and then I play like if I'm doing a dance gig, a salsa gig, right? But when I am performing with the band, and usually we perform in a Birdland jazz club, we have great acoustics, so we don't need to overpower the instrument. I'm just playing the natural sound, but with the swing, because if not, it's playing like this, like because the pattern of the cowbell is this. It's very simple. But if I play like this, for example, if we put a metronome and I play with the metronome just right there, right? It doesn't swing. So we gotta find out. And how you get to that is a whole life in the instrument. For me, is watching people dancing, watching the way maybe a sonero, you know, like a Benny Moré or Ismael Rivera, Héctor Lavoe, the way they attack and phrase, I try to put that in my cowbell. So it have a life, it have the same goes with the conga. If I play the conga like this, if I play like this, that can be okay if you're playing maybe pop music or some music that is more soft or more. But if we are playing mambo or Cuban music, you got to put some life and swing to it, and then go and with the flow, right? Same with the bongo. And then I can do a little riff, you know, but again, we go that with the improvisation and the listening to the music, to the Cuban music. Very simple, very simple. So far and so on, okay? So going back to the language, most of Latin music, the one of the spots that they find each other from every country is the polyrhythms. The polyrhythms. The polyrhythms is usually is a very academic term for music. I don't like to think about music that way in terms of polyrhythms. You know, they create these names to name something, and it's just for people for educational purposes good. But once you are performing, those things go out of the door, you know. But in Latin music, we have this beautiful polyrhythmic that is 3 versus 2, or 6 versus 4, whatever you want to call it. So it's this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So in the conga, I'm playing 2. And the bongo is 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So what will happen is that when we improvise, we can go thinking about 3 or thinking about 2 or thinking about a big 3. Or faster 3s. Performing or playing some music, I can grasp the language faster because I analyze it and I say, oh, this phrase is in 3, this phrase is in 2. So for example, when I was playing a riff in the bongo, like in the basic mambo, a typical phrase of bongo in the Cuban music. So you hear the 3 versus 2, pa 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 pa, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are triplets. When I'm improvising or playing the basic pattern of the bongo, I can go easily in between. So the same happens for many of the Peruvian music, Cuban music, Dominican Republic music. So then you connect those spots, right? Playing those kind of styles. I am talking and talking. Do you guys have any questions or are good? Should I keep going or it's fine? Good, okay. So if I play, that's one of the stuff that I learned later on in the game, and it opened my mind because I learned those just by listening to music, like when they go. But I was like, wow, is there stretching the time, or it's like where that comes from? But it all came from Africa because in Africa, you know, the diaspora that we have from the slavery, they bring all those rhythms, but the African rhythms all have that bell pattern, most of them. And we have those triplets. So what will happen if we play in some montuno or stuff like that? That will come alive. And because the African heritage from the Cuban people, they have it in their blood. So somehow, maybe a conga player did it without knowing it, because it's very organic. You know, the percussion instrument, I want to establish that these instruments are very human. They are not academic. I mean, nowadays we put the academic stuff and they write the rhythms and they do transcriptions, and all of that is beautiful and it's good and it's positive. But these instruments are human and are like you gotta learn it by heart, you know. So I listen to maybe a Patato Valdez, which is a very famous conga player, do this. a triplet right there. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. But I can assure you that Patato wasn't thinking, oh, I'm gonna do a triplet in half notes here, or I'm gonna do... No way, man. He was drunk. He was having fun. His party, and that came alive from here. So, I mean, of course, I'm not gonna tell you that. For example, when I started playing at the beginning, now modern days, thanks to Giovanni Hidalgo, we apply the rudiments on the congas and stuff from the drum set. I do that, but I'm not thinking about that when I'm playing. It just came out because it gotta be organic, right? So if I'm playing this, I'm not thinking, oh, I'm gonna do a triplet and put that here just for fun. No, I'm just playing, and it came out because what was happening in the music, the way I responded was that way. It's not that I was thinking, oh, I'm gonna do a triplet here to be the most hip guy, you know. It doesn't work like that. So sometimes if I play the martillo, see, that's already the 3 versus 2, right? If I play with the clave, so you can hear that I go back 3 and 2, 3 and 2. So that's a way to kind of develop a proper phrasing in Latin music, because Latin music is not all ta 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 ta. Some people think that Latin music is just taka 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 tuka taka taka pikito taka toka pikito taka toka tikito taka toka, and that's not Latin music. Latin music is syncopated, is Africa, is Spain, is Indian music, everything together. It's a mix. So there's nothing wrong if I'm playing a pop tune with the bongos, something like this. But that's a different style of music, you know. But if I'm playing typical or mambo jazz, stuff like that, you gotta put the African factor on the interpretation. And the same happens with the cowbell. Sometimes I'm doing the common mambo jazz pattern. So my phrase is in between ta 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 ta, in between that, right? Sometimes I gotta be honest. If I gotta record music like salsa pop, music like Mark Anthony, those kind of music, very stiff, very just for the singer. Maybe I gotta play my thing very. Very, you know, chaka chaka chaka, because that's what the tune called for, because it's usually a ballad translated to salsa. So in that way you change your approach. When we're doing mambo jazz, the music of Tito Puente, the music of Machito, the music of Mario Bauzá, the Chico Farrell, that music needs to be swinged. It needs to get life on it. And that's my approach to it, okay? So, going back to the Afro Latin Jazz Orchestra, of course, as we say, we play the Cuban music, and we play many different as guaguancó, bolero, cha-cha-cha. We play many cha-cha-chas, son montuno, and all of that developed with the personal style of each musician. And for example, in the orchestra, we have a amazing conga player, amazing percussionist, amazing drum set player, amazing singer. It's called Keisel Jimenez. So Keisel Jimenez, he brings a beautiful energy to the orchestra. And I have to learn to play with him and try to match. And from the first day that we played together, we have a beautiful chemistry because I understand all the Cuban stuff that he plays, and he understands some of the stuff I am playing. And we have still we are learning from each other because Keisel has so much information and so much soul, and you know, it's a beautiful. Every time we play, we can play the same tune 50 times, but each time we create something different between us, and of course the great Vin Cherico, that he's, you know, a master jazz drummer and he knows Latin music perfectly, so we have a good chemistry. And also talking about the drum set, I try to, usually when I play with drummers at the beginning when I moved to New York, it was very hard to me because I wasn't used to play with drummers that doesn't understand this. So usually I play with a drummer that doesn't know what is happening here, and he's playing by himself, just more focus on the jazz thing, in the interaction between the soloists, and I'm playing here and I feel like lost. But with the years, I learned how to fix that. And again, you gotta follow the drummer because he's like, in that moment where you play with a drum set player, he's the man. He's gonna be the man in charge of the rhythm section. So usually I try to follow the hi-hat or the right cymbal, something. We gotta agree on the time on something. Maybe it's in the hi-hat, maybe it's here, so we can lock in together. Okay. So that's one of the approach I do in the orchestra, just to play together and have a strong rhythmic section, right? So going to another different rhythm. For example, in the orchestra we do a rhythm from Puerto Rico called bomba, and this instrument here, for those who doesn't know it, is called the barril, which is a African heritage of Puerto Rico. And we have a beautiful arrangement by Papo Vázquez, which is called Caravan, which was composed with another Puerto Rican that was performing at the Duke Ellington Orchestra, Juan Tisol. And the way we perform that piece, we play a rhythm that is called Sika. And the Sika is a very simple rhythm. We play it like this: 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So you have a pattern with the sticks that go like this. I mean, that pattern is more in the dance band oriented, but if we're gonna perform in a let's say a folkloric situation, the stick pattern is something like this. And we have the maraca that just plays the time. And then the Sika pattern. So what happened with the Sika pattern is that we have another drum which is playing improvisations. So we came again to the same question: how we get to the language of those improvisations. You cannot play randomly because it will again clash with the soloist. Somebody is playing the melody, somebody is doing an improvisation, so you cannot just riff random on the tune. You gotta listen. You gotta know the melody first. That's very important. For me, if you saw me play with the orchestra, I hate to read music. Not that it's not that I don't know how to read music. I went to school. I went to the conservatory and I studied classical percussion, and I am a arranger myself. I do arrangements for salsa bands and big bands, but I want to learn the melody by heart, because usually when you read a chart, I mean, sometimes I gotta read a chart, but when you read a chart, it's just slash notes. And they say, play rhythm for 16 bars or play rhythm for 20 bars. But that's not music. I mean, I can say 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, that's a very mechanical way to play music. So what I like to do is learn the melody of the music. And we had the opportunity to perform every Sunday at Birdland. So we play these tunes many times. So by the time I am performing the 50th time, I know the melody, I know the arrangement by heart. So, yes? Is someone talking? No. So when I play the sica, I think about somebody dancing. Oh yeah, go for it.
So earlier you mentioned about that you study classical music. Do you ever take influences from your study of classical music and put it into what you're doing in Latin music?
Yeah, definitely. I for example, the way I improvise, the technique, I haven't talked about much technique here because that will be 3 hours later and in another setting. But the technique, let's see. For example, I took a lot of snare drum lessons. I did a lot of studies like Delecluse, Anthony Ciron, John Pratt, all those books that are dealing with the technique of the snare drum. So I studied that with the metronome. I play with an orchestra. So it helped me to develop my technique on the hand drums, So, for example, when I started playing the Billy Bounce tune, I did a lot of stuff that is technical stuff, but I'm not thinking, oh, I'm gonna do a paradiddle here or a flam or a drag. You know, those terms are like the scales. It's like if you are a saxophone player, oh, are you thinking I'm gonna do the Mixolydian sharp 11 scale or the Lydian flat? You just play by your heart. But the classical music helped me, you know. I studied 5 years. I have played with symphonies, and I learned the excerpts of Mozart, Beethoven, played timpani, all that stuff. I'm so glad that I did, because it helped me with my musicality, to be musical, to learn how to know when people are playing a melody, when there are people developing the melody, or where is an accompaniment, and all that stuff is very important. I grew up with the way I learned to play. For those who know me, they know that I grew up in a bar. My father used to own a bar. And the way I learned was watching people playing in the bar with the conga and timbal. So for me, music was a street, you know, calle, bah, 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 playing, you know, being fast, impressed. So when I went to the conservatory, I started, you know, rephrasing all that stuff and saying, no, we are here to do music, not to impress each other and to be the fastest or be the loudest guy. So all the snare drum technique, you know, all the beautiful stuff that I of course studied the rudiments, all that stuff. So I put it on the instrument. and also the compositional aspect, because in the composition you take a theme and you develop the theme. You can slow it down, you can rephrase it, you can invert it, you can do many things. So all those beautiful things, I have it on my mind. But again, I am very organic the way I play. I'm not thinking, oh, I'm gonna do this melody and then I'm gonna do stretch it or double time. I'm just go with the flow. All those stuff is here. I know it's here. I know it's around me. So somehow they came out. They came out. But I for any percussionist, if you guys have the opportunity to at least, I would recommend at least to study 2 or 3 years classical percussion. It will definitely be very helpful. Especially I love I play mallets. You gotta play a melody. You know where are the notes. Playing timpani. The timpani gets you a beautiful. For example, it helped me a lot on the timbales because the timbales are like the timpani baby. You know, it's like a small timpani. Make it a compact version. So the way I try to get the sound, I think about the timpani. You know, I am not thinking, oh, I'm gonna just bang on the instrument. No. I'm thinking to get the sound of the instrument. And I think the same way here, man. If I'm playing the barril, of course, if you go to a folkloric setting, you're gonna see guys going like that. But I'm trying to get the sound like a timpani, man. Actually, like getting the fundamental. It's called the fundamental note of the instrument, because every instrument has a fundamental note. For example, the tumbadora. But if I hit it like this or like that, it doesn't come out really good. So that came from the timpani. That's searching that sound. Again, you gotta have the sound in your head first. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I can play fast because that's like a, how you say that? That's a gift that I have. I have maybe fast hands or whatever you call it. But my sound on the instrument was very bad. No sound, and I can play fast, but I don't have a sound. So that came from classical music, to search that sound of the instrument. Same for the congas, you know, get the fast sound, you know. And again, the facility on percussion to have many options in the improvisation. So I don't know, but sometimes I do a flam or some rudiments. I don't think that way anymore. Back in the day when I was a student, yeah, I would practice maybe 3 hours a day, just rudiments. Not in the instruments. I never practiced those like Giovanni, like for example, Giovanni did, or Richie Flores, those guys. I always practice in a drum pad, like a drummer. But somehow, because I was doing a lot of gigs, when you do a lot of gigs on the street, you develop different techniques that you cannot develop usually in the practice room. So that's why I tell many students play so good. And I tell them, bro, what you need is to go out in the street and get your sound and get your life going on, you know? And that's the way it is. So, but the rudiments, I didn't practice in the congas actually. I just with the pad, but I have it here in my head. So when I perform it or something, somehow, maybe a paradiddle or I already, I can tell you the truth, I already forgot most of those names, but I know I play them because I study a lot of them. But I'm not thinking, oh, I'm gonna do a triple pataflafla or whatever rudiment is called. I just go. Sometimes, you know, they came out, and maybe I hear something that I record and I say, that rhythm came out, you know, but that's the way I do it. Some people study very mechanical and they go, yeah, I'm gonna do the paradiddle on the conga. And they play that for 2 hours. But I don't recommend that because I believe that that's not music. I believe that's something, it's like a boxer. He knows that he gotta do 100 push-ups or run every day 50 minutes and do jogging, everything. It's something like that for a musician. You gotta do those stuff just to get your chops together. But when you feel you have the chops good, you don't need to spend every day doing that because at some point you're gonna sound like a machine. And when you do a solo, all you're gonna do is I'm not saying that it's not a good thing to do. You gotta go for it. I have my season that I study a lot with the 5 years studying rudiments. Man, after 5 years, I'm okay. That's it. You learn them and then you forget them. That's the way it is. Okay. Any other question? We're good.
I have one question. How do you introduce the Latin percussion or folkloric percussion on a jazz situation during in New York and that kind of gigs?
Say again your question, sorry. So say in Spanish. You can say in Spanish.
Que cómo tú introduces la percusión latina o la percusión folclórica dentro de una situación jazzista,
Sí.
entiéndase un guiso en el área de Nueva York, que es muy diferente a lo que se puede vivir donde yo vivo en Puerto Rico.
Ok, sí. Okay. Usually he's asking about how we implement these instruments in the jazz world. So the first tune that I played was called Billy's Bounce, which is a Charlie Parker tune. What you gotta do is be a jazz freak, just as you are a Latin freak. You gotta learn all the important recordings, how a drummer plays. For example, I was playing percussion my whole life, but I was listening to drummers. I practiced drum set a little bit, but I know how to play, how Max Roach plays, how Elvin Jones, Tony Williams, all those great drummers. So why I say that? Because you gotta learn that language too. So you know how you're gonna fit in their language. In New York, for example, when we play in the Afro Latin Jazz Orchestra, it's different because the compositions, they write thinking about percussion sometimes. So for example, let's put example, we play a tune that is a Colombian porro. Colombian porro is a music that they call gaita, which is of course the pip organ instrument. So the composer, he is Colombian and he knows this music. He knows the patterns. He knows the porro. For example, the porro, they have a bass drum kind of instrument that is called a tambora. And I'm not an expert by any means, but the basic pattern that we do in the porro music is this. And they have another drum that is called a llamador, which is just doing upbeats, right? and they have another drum that is called the alegre. See right there, you see the similarity with the Puerto Rican rhythm, the sica. Ta, ta, boom, 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 ta, ta, boom, boom. So the alegre. So what will happen is that the composer, he knows this language of the Colombian music. He's Colombian. He grew up with that music. So he will put the composition, and then he will put the jazz harmonies and the jazz melodies and put all of this together. So sometimes the composer wants the drums to play more in the jazz language, just play swing or play the interaction between the jazz, you know, with the snare drum and the bass drum. So sometimes we gotta be aware of that, because if not, you say, hey man, what the drum set is playing, he's improvising the whole thing, he's not playing with us. Because in Puerto Rico, you are used that the drum set player, he will play the rhythm with you. We're gonna play a cumbia, so he's gonna play a cumbia pattern. So here, in this situation, in the orchestra, we play the cumbia, and the drummer, he knows the cumbia, the porro, he plays on the drum set, the porro, and we play the percussion. But for example, there are situations that I have to play with other percussion, the other people that just want the color of percussion. So when I mean that, is that they don't want me to play Latin music. I have been in situations that the group, they say, no, don't play jazz music. We're gonna play improvisational music. So I gotta create patterns. And the most important is in jazz to know the form of the music. So if you know the form, you know where to go in and go out and create. So I recommend you to listen to the music of Miles Davis when he have the percussion player Don Alias, or Herbie Hancock when he have that sector, and he have Bill Summers, Weather Report with Manolo Badrena. Alex Acuña is a great percussionist from Peru that plays drum set. He's a legend, and he's amazing in that style. Sometimes, what I want to say is that sometimes we're not gonna go full Latin on the group. We have to just play a little bit of the. So sometimes if I'm gonna play, and that happens with many styles. You playing rock, maybe you can do a semi Mozambique, or maybe do a little guaguancó-ish. So you don't play a full pattern, just to blend with the other musicians. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful too. So if a drummer is playing, let's say a drummer is playing this in the drum set, a funky beat like. Some kind of that. If I go like this, it will be too much for the music, right? It will be, you taking all the space. So maybe I can go, or play another rhythm, or maybe I create a tumbao. I create my own tumbao, right? Stuff like that. I don't know if you know that for example, Ray Barreto, the great conga player, Ray Barreto, before going into the Latin music and do his own orchestra, he recorded like 40 albums with the Blue Note Records, and he will do recordings with all great jazz players from that era. And he was playing the tumbao, swinging with the right cymbal of the drum set, the jazz pattern, right? They're gonna play the swing, tinkling, tinkling. So what will happen is that he gotta go with that phrase. He gotta go with the. I mean, it depends on the kind of music. For example, in the orchestra, sometimes the composer want to be fully folkloric. And you know, most of the Latin music in the folkloric setting is not just one percussionist. They have 6 or 5 guys playing percussion. So usually, if the composer wants to make the music very folkloric, they gonna bring more percussionists and we are gonna play all the parts. And it's gonna sound like, for example, when we did the Colombian Porro, the composer, he bring 2 more percussionists. So one percussionist play the tambora, the pattern that I showed you, which is very difficult. I'm just playing the basic part, but he was playing and improvising, you know, in between the language. And the conga player was playing the llamador. And then he bring another guy playing the alegre drum. And then another guy playing the maracón. The Colombian have like a big maraca that is very important. They do this. I mean, here it doesn't sound quite like what it is, but okay. So, but what will happen when we play live, we are just 2 percussionists. So usually the conga player, which is Keisel, he will do the llamador here and do the tambora, the tambora part in the other conga. Because the drum set is covering some of the parts. So we're trying to, so there's many different aspects there's many different approaches to playing percussion in jazz. But I will say, for the starters, you gotta learn the form of music. If I'm playing jazz, I can play jazz without rehearsing with people because I know the repertoire. If they say, okay, let's play Green Dolphin Street, I know the melody, I know the form. If they told me, oh, let's play I don't know, any jazz standard, Afro Blue or 92 Nietzsche, anything. So you gotta make, as a percussionist, you gotta know your repertoire too. You know, the horn player, they study and they try to learn many melodies and standards. So as a percussionist, you gotta learn it too. As I did at the beginning, I played the melody for Billy's Bounce. So I played in the percussion instruments. And I know it's a 12 bars blues. So I improvise around that, around the 12 bar blues. But you gotta know what is a rhythm changes, what are blues, giant steps, all those different jazz forms. So when someone calls you to play, you don't feel like, oh, what they are doing. You're just talking to each other because it's a music language, okay? So any other questions besides that? We good?
Carlos, thank you very much. It was very, very important. Thank you. It comes from the heart. And you know the fundamentals, we learn all the fundamentals, but then you got to let loose. And you know, hearing you say that it's reassuring. Okay. Yeah, thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah, man. There's so much incredible information and things for people to think about here, man.
Oh no, I try to do the way I think about music, and you know, being in New York, you learn a lot. It's not. I came from Puerto Rico and we play different way, and then moved to New York and learn a lot from different musicians. And it's every day. I'm still learning. I'm still learning.
You're from Puerto Rico. I'm from New York, and I learned from Puerto Rico. From Puerto Ricans uptown.
Oh yeah.
The New Yorkers, I learned.
yeah, the New Yorkers. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, unless anyone else has any other questions, I just want to give Carly a big thank you, and I think we should give him a digital round of applause. Yeah, that was cool.
Thank you.